there, it's Brian Wetton from Core Coaching and Selling by Giving, and yes, the author of Yes, Yes, Hell No, the little book for making big decisions. And I'm going to be telling you a little bit in some of these videos about what I do and what I find so incredible about the opportunity to make a bigger difference in the world and increase your income by doing what you love. And before I do any of that, I want to tell you a little bit about my story and why I do what I do. In working with a lot of other coaches, counselors, healers, I found that their stories are what really inspire me. That pretty much each of us has some reason why we're doing this. We have some deep journey that got us here. And I find that when I connect to that, it helps me really understand who it is I'm talking to. So I started as a Mormon nerd in the cornfields of Illinois, very sheltered, very safe, very loving, incredible upbringing. And my big dream in college, as I started out as an engineer, was eventually to make $60,000 a year as an engineer. I thought that was an astronomical amount of money. Somehow, that eventually led to me being a Berkeley atheist PhD in computer science, doing internet research at the birth of the internet, the public internet that is, in the 90s. And that, of course, somehow led to me raising $20 million for 2 startup companies as my first job out of college. I'll never forget the day I walked into my local Wells Fargo student branch of the bank with my little cow backpack on my shoulder and asked to talk to the manager because I needed to find out how to open up a business checking account with the $1 million of checks I had in my backpack from professional adults that really should have known better. And led to a wild, wild ride. I made and lost millions 3 times before I turned 30, was part of a $120 million acquisition, a $400 million IPO, 2 burnouts because once wasn't enough. And it wasn't all good. I had some tremendous ups, but also some very painful failures during that time, including at the end of our first company where I fired everybody and sold what was left of me and my adrenal glands to a competitor for like 30 cents on the dollar. It was a major loss. So it wasn't like everything was all rosy, but it was an extraordinary learning experience. I crammed more learning about business into those 8 short years than I ever would have imagined possible. So just as things are starting to look really good, our company's gone public, looks like I can retire, everything on the outside looks like I've got everything I could possibly want and desire. I've achieved just about everything I could imagine by the age 30 that I could have dreamed of, in fact much more than I could have dreamed of. I started spiraling downhill in depression with a second burnout. And after a year of this, where everything on the outside looked perfect, but everything inside was feeling increasingly desperate, I did something absolutely crazy. I reached out for help. That was quite the stretch for me. And in doing so, I found my worldview shaken to its core. I had a wake-up experience where I connected to the death of my birth mother for the first time emotionally. I had known intellectually that she died when I was 3, but I didn't have any emotional memory of her. I'd repressed everything away, and it was a fairly large trauma that I had stored away. So when I connected to that, I had a wake-up experience in one of these self-development seminars where I all of a sudden regressed to being 4 years old and just mommy, 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 ow, 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 hurt, hurt, don't go, don't go. It was quite something, just grieving her death for the first time for probably 3-4 hours straight. It was a beautiful process, a surprising process. I had no idea that was coming. And particularly as a very non-religious, by that time I was agnostic, a devout agnostic, certainly not religious in any way, not even necessarily spiritual in any way. And I had a mystical or spiritual experience where actually I got through the pain of her death to the other side. And I experienced who I was as a child of God, as a 3-year-old, as a 2-year-old, as a young child, the innocence, the love, who I really was. It was this extraordinary experience of really getting for the first time that who we are at our core, we are spiritual beings having a human experience. And I've been grateful enough to have quite a few of those experiences since then, because that wake up was enough for me to walk away from a rather insanely lucrative career in Silicon Valley. I was making an exorbitant amount at that point and far beyond anything I'd ever imagined growing up. I felt like I'd won the golden ticket, the lottery ticket for fame and fortune, everything I thought I'd wanted, and I actually turned it back in. I said, no, I don't want this. What I want is what's inside my heart. And so I quit and took my money and moved to Southern California and invested everything that I had saved and made in my own personal growth and healing. And I did 6 years full-time inner work with the best coaches, counselors, healers, teachers, therapists, everything I could find. Including 6 years at the University of Santa Monica, which I still believe is one of, if not the most extraordinary programs on the planet. If anything I do, anything I share calls to you, please check out the University of Santa Monica. There's nothing like it on the planet, and I give tremendous credit to that organization. I wouldn't be married today probably if it wasn't for them. I certainly wouldn't be doing the work I'm doing. I wouldn't be happy. So after getting a master's degree in spiritual psychology and doing enough of my own inner work that I could at least start to imagine being in a relationship with the woman of my dreams. Oh, I forgot to mention that. My biggest dream the whole time was to be married and have a family, but I had developed this tremendous abandonment fear because of my mom's death. And I was literally unable to be in a relationship for more than 3 months. In fact, 6 months was my longest relationship before my wife. I had 2 6-month relationships, but that was it. That was my highest possible, longest term, biggest stretch before I would freak out and sabotage and escape in some way. And so I tell my wife and my 2 daughters regularly that they are the great miracle of my life. And I'm extraordinarily grateful for that. And I couldn't be where I am today if it wasn't for the deep inner work I did. It took everything I had, everything I am to be able to be in the relationship I have, and I am extraordinarily blessed. If you meet my wife and daughters, everyone who meets them is like, wow, you married above yourself. I'm like, yes, you get it. So my relationship, my family is a huge piece of my purpose. It's a huge piece of why I do what I do. And as I was coming out of the University of Santa Monica and my 6-month retreat from the world, basically, I had all these new tools, all these gifts. I'd woken up, I'd connected to consciousness, I'd done my inner healing work. I had these incredible tools to share with the world. And so I thought, okay, let's go. Let's hang out my shingle. I'm going to be a professional coach and do life-changing work with people. And I found it extraordinarily difficult to not serve clients. Serving clients was easy. When people showed up, I was able to do extraordinary work with them. But when I went out to actually go find clients, to get into conversations with them, to actually charge money for this work, something broke down. I found myself struggling to enroll clients for $300, $400 a month. Now, at the same time, I'm doing consulting work at $5,000, $10,000 a month. So there was just this bizarre disparity where I couldn't figure out what was going on. I found that this really purpose-driven, extraordinarily valuable soul work that I was doing with people, I couldn't charge for. I couldn't find the clients, I couldn't attract them. There's incredible deep conflicts. I started procrastinating whenever it came to going out and getting into conversations. I spent hour after hour working on the book that would make me rich and famous and successful so people would beat a path to my door. And I wouldn't have to actually go out there and risk anything. And funny enough, that didn't work, at least not at the time. 10 years later, the book, at least the first book, is published, and it's extraordinary. It's getting pretty amazing feedback from people. But that was a result of walking a journey of discovery. I didn't write the book first and then have the world find their way to me. I figured out, how do I walk the path of leadership? And along the way, how do I help other people do it? Because I couldn't find anyone to teach me how to resolve these issues. At first, I just thought there were money issues. Okay, I must have money consciousness issues. But I'd actually been pretty conscious about money. I'd brought quite a bit of it in. And as I tried different things, snapping the rubber band every time I had a bad thought about money, all these different trainings and programs on money consciousness, I found that none of them worked. I got almost no value. If anything, I got a sore wrist as the cost of those programs. So that didn't work. They may have worked for other people, but they didn't work for me. And so I started digging in. I said, okay, what is this? I'm nothing if not stubborn or persistent or determined. And so I started digging into this problem and said, what is this and why is this going on, and how do we get to the heart of this? And at the core, what I discovered is something extraordinary about our business, about our industry, about the work we do, which is that traditional business does not work for what we do. Everything I'd learned in Silicon Valley, everything I'd learned that had made me be successful, in many key ways turned out to be almost exactly the opposite of what worked for me in this transformation business. So if you could take one thing away from what I'm sharing with you today, it's that traditional business is the opposite of transformational business. And because of that, what happens is that almost everybody in our industry gets stuck between one of two really bad options. Either they get stuck in hard selling. They push, they do table rush, they do manipulative sales and marketing practices, they hype themselves up, they do things that feel really out of integrity inside, but actually make money and allow them to serve people. And that's not wrong, but it's a painful choice. And I know a number of amazing transformational leaders and coaches who use unclean sales and marketing tactics to get the clients, and then they do extraordinary work. So it's a dilemma. It's not like, oh, those bad people. It's a valid choice, but it's a tough one. And then the other choice is what I call give up. So we've got hard selling and give up. And what this looks like is, I just need to get another degree. I need another certification. I need to have more value, give more tastes of value, give more away. I just need a longer format seminar where I can give even more value. I must not have enough value yet, because surely if I had enough value, the world would beat a path to my door. You've heard that, right? If you build a better mousetrap, the world will beat a path to your door. Except that in our industry, it doesn't work that way. The reality is, the core problem of our industry is that people are scared to change. It doesn't matter if things are getting worse or getting better. We have a thermostat. That it's like we've got a thermostat set where if the temperature gets colder than 68 degrees, the heat kicks in and we get into action to move it back up. But if things get hotter than 72 degrees, the air conditioning kicks in and we do something to pull ourselves back in. So the paradox of our work is that the more value you have to offer, the more purpose-driven you are, the more conscious you are, the more you care about your clients, the more that you are utterly committed to doing transformational work in the world, the more that people will both beat a path to your door, that they'll be drawn to your work, but even more so, they will run away. All right? This is a really strange thing because they're scared unconsciously to change, but consciously they want the change, so they experience what I call a yes, yes, hell no. That's the book. Yes, yes, hell no, the little book for making big decisions, which I wrote to help explain this core dynamic at the heart of our industry. That the more that you really care about something, the more you care about a goal, or your clients care about a goal, the more that a goal is heartfelt, specific, and scary, a yes, yes, hell no, what I call a big win, the more that when it comes to receiving the support that would actually help them reach that goal, like for me, getting married and having a family, and my two incredible daughters, it took everything I could, it took everything I had in me to reach out for help. It was extraordinarily difficult. And then once I did it, it was even harder in many ways to reach out a second time, because then I knew it was down there, and it terrified me. Right? There were some monsters lurking in the depths that scared me deeply. There was a voice of fear inside me that felt like if you really go there, if you really go inside and fully look at what's in there, you'll die. Like it was death level fear associated with my mom's death. And so it took a ton of courage. It was a huge yes, yes, hell no. And that's not just me, that's everybody. Right? The more that you have value to offer your clients, the more that you care, that you're conscious, that you're committed, that you really can support them in getting what they most want, the more they will experience a yes, yes, and a hell no at the same time. Okay, so how do we work with this? This is the core dilemma at the heart of our industry. How do we work with this? And recognize that your clients are going to tell you this. Instead, what they usually do is tell you the big lie. You ready for the big lie? You've almost certainly heard it before. Have you ever had a client or potential client tell you, I'd love to work with you, but I just don't have the time or the money? That's the big lie. And what it usually means, now sometimes it genuinely means it's not a fit right now. You know, what you're offering isn't a fit, it's not a priority. But most of the time, particularly if you really feel like it's a good fit, you intuitively know, wow, I could really help this person and it's really on course. Usually what they're saying is, I'm scared to change. I have a yes, yes, and a hell no. But they don't know how to work with it because most of the fear is unconscious. We don't consciously acknowledge that we're scared to improve our lives. That would be crazy. So instead, we dance, we twist, we deny, we do all these other things instead. Okay, so how do we work with this? Right? How do we break out of this dilemma, this trap, where it feels like we have to choose between hard selling and table rush and false scarcity and putting yourself on a pedestal and looking big and important and all of the drama that comes with this side of things, right? Or give up, which is what most people do, because they don't want everything that comes with this. They want the benefits, but they don't want to have to do what it takes. And so we say, okay, well, somehow if I offer enough value, if I'm spiritual enough, if I watch The Secret enough times, if I do enough, somehow my clients will start being a path to me. But it's the opposite. If anything, if you look around, you'll see that sometimes it's easier to be successful as a coach, counselor, healer if you offer just a little bit of value. Right? If you notice anybody around you that really doesn't have that much depth, they aren't really offering that much value, but they're really successful, okay? That's because they don't scare people as much. Right? Oftentimes I'm working with some of the top leaders in our industry who they actually look like they've got it all together. They're, it looks like they're on the pedestal and everything looks great. But inside and with their business, their organization, they're deeply struggling. And I explain to them, well, the problem is actually that you have too much value. And that their head spins. What? That just doesn't make any sense. Yeah, if your clients, if you have this much value to offer, but only this much enrollment skill to move people through their fears, they're going to run screaming from you. In contrast, if you're in hard sell mode where it's not clean, but at least it's effective, and you're only offering a little bit of value, people will be the path to your door. If you're really good at selling people, and even if it's manipulative and aggressive and pushy, and you don't really offer that much value, you're not going to trigger that much of their fears. So over here, give up, lots of value, no enrollment. And it's tough. It's a really tough thing. This is why the vast majority of coaches are failing in our industry. And I can't stand that. Right? My whole purpose and passion, in addition to my family, has been about helping our industry succeed. Right? I care deeply about the coaches, the counselors, the healers, the transformation leaders, the authors, our tribe, who are so committed. Right? Because every time I connect with someone who's doing this work and I listen to your story, I find that your story is almost always at least as interesting, often more times so than mine. More heartfelt, more purpose-driven. Right? The incredible leaps of faith that you have gone through to be doing your work today in this world is extraordinary. I don't even know you, but if you're listening to this, I would imagine that you have a pretty incredible story that brought you to here, and you have a deep calling that you've been saying yes to. And yet, without really necessarily even knowing what's going on, you find yourself stuck on this dilemma. You find yourself stuck between hard selling, which just feels in your bones wrong. And oftentimes I work with people and they buy into it for a little bit. They're like, okay, well all the experts say that's what I should be doing, so let me learn internet marketing and this and that and a list and table rush and all these things so that I can serve. Right? And it doesn't work. And they don't want to do it. Right? If you spent tens of thousands of dollars on marketing and trainings and masterminds and things over here and not gotten value, I'm sorry on behalf of our industry. Because the reality is that the vast majority of the stuff that's being offered in this area doesn't work. And the more purpose-driven you are, the more your care, the more calling you have coming through you, the more conscious you are, the less this stuff will work for you. Okay? But this stuff doesn't either. Just giving away value, giving more taste, giving this, giving that doesn't work either. So what's the third choice? Right? What is the other option? There has to be one. Right? Einstein said that problem can never be resolved at the level at which it's created. It has to go to another level of consciousness. So what's the more conscious approach to business? What's the more conscious way to bringing in terrific high-paying clients that allow you to do work you absolutely love? Right? And that's what I call selling by giving. It's not the only approach. Selling by giving is my brand. There are other people working in this space as well. But there's this third path. It's a third way of enrolling clients where you learn how to enroll people, not sell them, but how to enroll them, how to walk them through the 6 stages of change. Okay? You teach them consciously how to work with their yes, yes, hell no's. You give them a book if you want to. You say, here we go, here's something for you to read as homework before our next conversation. Or go buy this and read it before our next conversation because it frames the problem. It actually teaches the tools that people need in order to be enrollable, in order for you to be able to move them through their fears consciously. It takes this conflict we have inside, the yes, yes, hell no, I really want it, but no, right? It makes it explicit so that you can start talking about it. We teach you how to have a conversation, a coaching conversation, a counseling conversation that moves people through their fears cleanly. Not that you're pushing them in any way, but you're also not enabling their fears or taking their big lies as truth. Oh, I'd love to work with you, but. No, we're calling that out. We're taking a stand for the value that lives in our clients. We're being courageous and holding clean space in the face of their fears. Okay. So does that resonate? Does that call to you? Would it be helpful if we could teach you this third choice? A more conscious, more loving, more enjoyable, more effective way of enrolling clients? Of finding and attracting and enrolling your ideal clients so that you can make a really good living and most importantly make a huge impact in the world doing work that you love? If that resonates with you, please come to our Practice Building Breakthrough. Please take advantage of some of the online free resources we offer. Please get into a strategy session with one of our coaches. We would love to not convince you of anything. That's the last thing I want to do, is try to convince you that you should spend money on anything I have to offer. But I would love for you to prioritize the tastes of value that we're offering. If your calling is to make a difference in the world, my calling is to help you make a bigger difference in the world, more consciously, more gracefully, more powerfully, in ways that help you grow your own consciousness, that help you lift and walk your path of authentic leadership at the same time. Okay? So if that's you, I would love to see what we can do, see if this resonates, see what we can do to help you make a bigger impact in the world, because particularly at this time on the planet, the world needs your help. Thank you, and I really appreciate this opportunity to be of service to you.